Câu hỏi xin hỏi bằng tiếng Việt rồi hỏi là Stephanie về đây thì thấy có giai đoạn rất cảm động là gặp lại bác Thới, chú Thới và Tuấn. Đây là những người rất là thân của Stephanie. Thì điều này làm chúng tôi cũng cảm động. Tại vì trong cái địa hạn của Stephanie không có nhiều người Việt. Thì Stephanie cảm thấy là người Việt ở đây có thể giúp Stephanie nhiều nhất bằng cách nào, nhất là về những cái gì Stephanie cần ngay lúc này.
Dung rất là cảm động khi mà về Virginia, về vùng này mà lại gặp lại những người hồi lúc mà Dung lớn lên thì là bạn của bạn với gia đình Dung. Thì tại cái thời gian đó lúc mà Dung lớn lên đó là ba má Dung cố gắng làm việc mà cũng không có nhiều tiền, rồi cái đó là, nhưng mà có nhiều lúc rất là vui tại có bạn bè để mà chung chia sẻ. Thành ra Dung bây giờ Dung nghĩ lại đến cái thời gian lúc mà Dung còn nhỏ, rồi Dung mà gia đình nghèo, mà bây giờ Dung có thể ngồi đây là một người đã thành công ở đất Mỹ, rồi ngay bây giờ thì lại đang ứng cử để làm người ở Quốc hội. Nên cái đó làm cho Dung rất là cảm động, tại cái đó là một cái thời gian trải qua nhiều chuyện, nhiều kỷ niệm.
Cảm ơn Ngọc Dung. Thank you. So the next question I would like to ask is, you will be our first Vietnamese American woman in Congress. What do you think about the role of a woman in the U.S. Congress here? And if you ever thought of how Vietnamese women back in Vietnam now are doing with many stories of human trafficking, sex slaves, and all that, you be in the position that you can help a lot. What do you think you can do?
Yeah, the one thing that when I go to Congress, I would be the first Vietnamese American woman to serve in Congress, and as much as that is a source of excitement and potential pride for me, I think it's even more important that it is a step in the right direction of creating a more diverse government, a government that represents the diversity of this country. Right now, we have 19%. Female representation in the Congress when women are a larger part of this population. And so for me, I just think it's a wonderful step in the direction of creating a more diverse government. And I think in order for us to have a democracy where our government is a representative government, it has to start to look like the population that it's representing. So that is an exciting prospect for me. And then the other part of your question about what we can do to help women all over the world who do not have the opportunities that are available necessarily here in the United States. I look forward to the opportunity of working with our allies overseas and drawing on my national security experiences in order to further the rights of women all over the world. And then particularly here in the United States, we still, a paycheck fairness bill needs to be passed for equal pay, equal work. And then women's access to healthcare is really important too. So there's a lot of work to be done in that space.
Thank you. So you're an expert in national security. What do you think is the focus right now of the U.S. national security? And what do you think about the South China Sea, the pivot to Asia?
So there are so many challenges right now from a national security perspective, whether it's a resurgent Russia that has acted in ways that are fairly hostile, either in the cyberspace or actually in Syria and what's going on in that conflict there. And then obviously in the South China Sea, the relationship between China and the Southeast Asian countries is a complicated one. It's one that has a lot of history, and I think there aren't necessarily simple solutions for that, but it is one that the United States also has a complicated relationship with, because on the one hand they are influencers, whether it comes to the economy or security in other parts of the world. But there are moments where, there are cyber intrusions and things like that. And so we're walking into a new era and trying to find the right left and right bounds to guide our national security in that space. And pivot to Asia has always been interesting to me, because I wonder exactly what it means, and I've yet to really find a good definition for what pivot to Asia is. But I think it really is more of a symbolic thing to say that people, that Asia is becoming more and is more important from economic and national security perspectives.
Thank you. So then you're talking about the pivot to Asia, and you're also a businesswoman. You have very sound background in business. And what do you think about the Transpacific Partnership? Ngọc Dung nghĩ gì về cái hiệp định đối tác thương mại xuyên Thái Bình Dương?
So I am somebody who's a supporter of globalization. There are a lot of opportunities for American businesses when we have fair and broader international trade. There are some things within that TPP that I'm concerned about. And what I have learned is that when we do negotiations, if we park the hard issues to the side and say, okay, let's pass this bill and then we'll come back and deal with that, we never really come back and deal with that well enough. And so what that's created is a kind of emotional gut negative response to the idea of fair trade or free trade. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to go back and make sure that the agreement addresses some of the labor concerns and other areas well before we try to push it on through.
So Stephanie nói là muốn đề cao cái nhân quyền, cái value, cái giá trị tinh thần của Hoa Kỳ, và một trong những cái giá trị rất là rõ ràng là nhân quyền hay human rights. Thì nếu mà Stephanie trở thành dân biểu, thì Stephanie sẽ làm gì cho cái human rights của Việt Nam và cái nhân quyền ở đây?
I think as the United States, it's always sort of a delicate issue when we talk about other countries' human rights, and there are limits. There are ways in which we can apply pressure, but at the end of the day, we have to continue to have relationships because that provides leverage. And so as the relationship between the U.S. and Vietnam deepens, the hope is that the U.S. will be able to be more effective in influencing Vietnam to do the right things as it relates to human rights.
Thank you.
I just want to keep this as casual as possible. First, how are you feeling?
Good. It's been a busy day.
Yeah, I'm sure. So what's next for you? You're here in DC. You had to make a pit stop in DC, and what's the next move? What defines success for you in your campaign right now?
So I have a few more events, and right now we're 30-some days out from the election.
30, 32, I think?
Yeah.
30, 32,
32, 33, 30, something like that.
Something like that.
Not that anybody's counting. But we will, God willing, everybody is safe and through this hurricane, and we'll resume once the city gets back up on its feet. We'll be resuming campaigning. We'll be implementing a very large field team that is knocking on doors and calling people. We'll be continuing to run our TV ads. You saw a few of them this evening. And we are running a mail program, and then we'll continue to also do the events in the community to reach out to the voters. And early voting begins in the next week or two from mail-in ballots. So, yeah, it's fast and furious from here until November 8th.
I see. So a lot of so I've been definitely keeping up with you. We have a very strong tie through your brother,
yeah.
Whom I talk to pretty regularly, and I didn't even know you existed until you shared a video of you. But one of the things is, like, I really support your platform. I really love what you're doing. And I asked my other friends, like, have you heard of Stephanie Murphy? People that are really politically active within their own their own areas like Louisiana, Sacramento. These are the perfect communities to reach out to. Like, what is the message that would you like to share to them if they were here today?
You know, if they're politically active, then thank you first and foremost for being politically active, because I think as Asians and as Vietnamese people, we need to be more politically active so that we have a voice in this country, that we're all a part of the community. So thank them first and foremost. And then, you know, I think we should help each other, lift each other up in whatever our endeavors are. So I would encourage them to reach out and connect.
Totally agreed. And another thing is some comments as this is a really last minute event. I'm so happy that a lot of community members came out. There's comments about like, oh, she's from Florida. Why is she here? You know. So can you give a little bit more explanation on why it is important that you're campaigning beyond your state and the role of a congresswoman? Just as simple as possible.
Sure. I particularly here is because my roots are here. This is where I grew up, so this has a particular sentimental value to me. But I also think that, you know, as members of Congress, you have the charge of not just your district, but the betterment of America. You take an oath to serve, and so you're serving your constituents, but you're also making decisions that affect the entire country, and so reaching out to supporters across the country is important.
Cool, thank you. Yes, we have a question over here. What's your name?
My name is Chilan Vu. First of all, welcome back to Annandale. We are here in Fort Worth, but it's close enough to in Virginia. And thank you for being a trailblazer, because I would declare I would be the second one. As active, I used to be as a former Scout leaders for Venture, and I always have a passion, even though I don't have my own children yet, but education is what our culture informs. And as you can see tonight, we have 3 generations in one room. Okay? And this is a very special event. I would like to ask you, at what age did you realize that you become a fearless for the leaders? And the follow-up question is that, what advice do you have for young women, and right now that perhaps they're in middle school, high school, what are the set of skills that they need to utilize in school that to be who they are today if they follow the public service career?
So I've probably wanted to be in public service since I was in high school. I worked for General Scowcroft, and he's the one that, you know, talked about how hard public service is, but how important it is for this country. And so, and then, you know, in considering running for this race, I'm raising a little girl. She's 2. I have a little boy who's 5 as well. And I think about, you know, all the reasons there are not to do politics, right? And what are people going to say about you? It gets dirty, you know, the difficulties of it, mostly as a woman worrying about what people say. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm raising her to be a trailblazer. I want her to feel like there's nothing in this world that she can't do. And the only way you can raise your children is to be the example for them. And so I thought to myself, well, you know, here I have this opportunity, and I'm capable, and I want to serve. How can I allow the idea of what other people are going to say about me be the reason that holds me back, and then still look at her and tell her that, you know, she needs to live her life not worried about what other people think. And then as far as, you know, what you should be focused on, I mean, I think just I reiterate something your parents probably say, which is study hard, right? But communication skills and just basic interpersonal skills are probably one of the biggest things, and those are things that you don't really learn in a book.
We have a question over here.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for coming here. My name is
It's okay. No, we need you to come up. Yeah. This is our new staff. We like you to be really.
So thank you for coming here. My name is Natalie Woodruff. My question to you is, I know we can't vote for you. How much money do you need to fundraise? And what are some of the things people can do from now until election to help you win?
So the amount of money is an obscene amount, is the way that I think about it. As somebody who works in the nonprofit space and works with startups, I think about the money that goes into a congressional campaign, and it's sort of distressing. And which is why End Citizens United has endorsed my candidacy, because I do think we have to get this big money out of politics. But in that, the fact that this is what we're looking at, I have to raise about $1 million in my campaign. I'm a little more than halfway there over the last 2 or 3 months. And so I have a bit more in the next few weeks to do. But I also have the support of the National Party and some other groups in it. And so as far as getting what can you do, we always say mind, mouth, and money. And mind is share with us your ideas, things that you think we should focus on or talk about, or how we might address ideas, topic areas, things like that. Mouth is use your mouth to spread the word and share with other people that we have this exciting campaign going on, and just spread the word about it. And then money, of course, is the piece that helps us have the resources to communicate the way that we need to within our district. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Nick?
Please come up here, and then Nicholas too. We have 4 chairs, so just come up.
Hey, good to see you again. My name is Nick, for those who don't. My question is, and you touched upon this a little bit, what is your, Tuan asked it, but I wanted to see, what is like a day-to-day life for you as a candidate, and what type of sacrifices have you had to make, and the time that you spend with your family and things like that?
Yeah. So day to day, this is the disappointing piece, is that I spend a lot of time making phone calls, just calling for money. So it's called call time. And every candidate who's running at any level, whether it's Senate, Congress, they spend a lot of time doing call time, which is why I think it's important to get big money out of politics. So a bit of my day is doing that, and then a lot of my day is out in the community, meeting with chambers of commerce, meeting with nonprofit groups, and just folks in the community, listening to what their issues are, and sharing a bit about our campaign and our platform. So, and then I try to squeeze in family time. So an example day last week was, I also am still teaching at Rollins, so that's one thing that I haven't suspended. So I taught class in the morning. I introduced Vice President Joe Biden, who was in town for an event, so I introduced him at an event. I went back to teach class, and then I went to t-ball practice for my son, who's 5, and then I went to a campaign event that night. So my day is pretty unusual, I think. I mean, one minute I'm with the vice president, and the next minute I'm with my son's t-ball team. So, but it's been good, and my family's been very supportive. So I'm a little disappointed that I'm not with them right now with the bad weather that we're experiencing in Orlando. But glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Are there any more questions out there? Yeah, don't be shy. Mấy bác có câu hỏi. Dạ, mời bác lên.
No, I think it will take you forever to walk up.
No.
I can do it from here.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I kind of have 2 questions. Question number 1, since your route is in Virginia, do you have a plan to have Senator Tim Kaine come and campaign for you? And if he comes, would it make a difference My second question is that it looked like that Hillary will be in the White House, but you still have the both Congress, Congress and the Senate will be controlled by the Republicans. So how do you specifically plan to get rid of the gridlock? Because that's one of your main reason that you want to run for this election. Thank you.
So Senator Kaine is a really wonderful person, and I've had the honor of meeting him in the past. But obviously, his schedule, is dictated by the demands of running for vice president. So if he is in our area, it would be great to see him. And I think he's very well liked. And right now, Hillary is leading in my district by 14 points. So my district is very much strongly in the Hillary camp. As for the gridlock, I just have a different approach, and I've worked on issues on the Hill before, and part of the way that you get things done is a willingness to reach across the aisle and a willingness to make some friends, and to consider ideas regardless who they come from, right? So they're not necessarily Republican ideas or Democratic ideas, but if they're a good idea and they're right for the people, then you build a coalition. It's not too different from the things that you have to do in business or in national security. You have to understand that you're not going to agree with somebody 100% of the time, but still be willing to find the common ground and move forward. And I think the other thing is that as a member of Congress, you have an incredible platform, and being able to use that in smart ways to help elevate issues that are of concern would be another way that you, outside of legislating, that you can use to make a difference.
While waiting for...
You have a question over here?
Thank you. I have two quick questions for you. If you were a congresswoman, what is the first bill you're going to work on and why?
So the first bill that I would work on would be a universal background check for gun safety. And the reason is that we have to move forward on common sense gun safety measures. And I am going to be representing a district that has been impacted by the Pulse nightclub shooting, the largest mass shooting in the country, as well as the Trayvon Martin shooting in Sanford. It is an issue that is of importance to folks in Central Florida. So and I think that it's beyond time that we act on that. So that would be the first one.
Questions? Oh, got one over here. She'd like to see you.
Hi there.
Hello. So my name is Chana Chun. I live in Arlington, Virginia. I'm glad to have learned about you tonight, especially your story. My family came to America as Cambodian refugees, so it's very, very similar experience. I was born in a refugee camp and have done well for ourselves here. But number two, thank you. Looking at famous couples, the Obamas, the Clintons, the Kaines. I've noticed that choice of spouse has been very important in their path towards public service. So do you have advice for young people in regards to their choice of partners if they are also seeking to serve?
I think this advice is, and my husband and I have been married 13 years, and this advice is generally regardless of whether you want to seek public service or not, because I assure you when we got married, this wasn't in my plans. And so when I first told my husband, I think I'm going to do this, and then he didn't say anything, and sometimes he doesn't, and a couple days go by, and I was like, we haven't talked about that yet. And he was like, oh, I thought you were kidding. So I think the most important thing is finding somebody who is willing to grow with you, right? Because the person I am today is not the person I was when I met him and not the person I was when I got married to him. But we share a common set of values, and family is important to us, and we share respect for each other. You know, I left my job at in a national security position to move to Florida because he had an opportunity to run a company, and I knew that was important to him. And so it's about the give and take that you do because you respect the other person. And so now he has become primary parent a bit while I'm on the campaign trail, but he's doing because he knows this is important to me. So those are, I think, the two big qualities, because all the rest of it sort of changes. You know, like what you look like, you know, what your job is. All of those things are, they change, but I think your values and the respect for each other are the immutables.
Great question, thank you. Have any other questions out here?
So while waiting,
Okay.
I'm just asking another question. You in Florida, so what is your thinking about the immigration law? Because there's a lot of immigrants there in Florida, and also about the racial tension between actually the white Americans and Latino Americans and even African Americans, and for us, the Vietnamese Americans.
I'll take the immigration piece first, and that with that, I think we have to have comprehensive immigration reform, and that means securing our borders, and then finding a pathway of some sort for the undocumented to come out of the shadows here in this country, and then creating a immigration process that allows talented folks and people to come to the United States and fill some of the gaps and bring innovation into our tech sectors and other places. So I think, you know, we need comprehensive immigration reform. And that's first and foremost. As far as the sort of racial tensions, I would say, that's the thing that I think has bothered me the most, is that we have made so much progress in my lifetime. You know, I grew up in a very rural Virginia town, not a little farther away from here. And I just feel like we've made so much progress in breaking down the barriers, and it wasn't okay anymore to be outwardly discriminatory towards somebody. But now we're in a situation where somebody who's running for the highest office in this country is saying all sorts of things about all different types of people. And that is so distressing to me, because I think it's setting us back, and it's not living into our American values. I mean, America used to be the land of immigrants, and now we're trying to, you know, create deportation forces and things like that. So I think that rhetoric isn't helpful. Because, you know, as Americans, if we live into our values, we're an inclusive society, and I think we need leadership that reinforces that idea.
Thank you. Any questions from? While waiting, let's just ask one last question. Since you're a business lady and you did talk about economy, what do you think about the responsibility of a person paying taxes and the tax reform and the tax situation?
Obviously, as a taxpayer, I don't think anybody should be above the system. You know, we all pay into the system, and you know, they say there's only two things certain, and it's taxes and death. You know, so I mean, in the United States, we have a system that does have taxes, but it also provides social goods. I think that there are ways that we can make our tax system more efficient and close loopholes and alleviate the burden on the lower income folks, while not removing the incentive to achieve and earn and progress up the scale.
So what do you think about billionaires who skip paying taxes for 18 years. How does that work out with the tax reform here?
I think that that is pretty consistent with the candidate and the person that he has presented himself to us as.
But that he said he followed the law, and he said he's only pay what the law asked him to pay, and that means he hasn't paid for 18 years, and so then there's a lot of loophole for you to work on. Thank you.
Let's give Stephanie Murphy another round of applause for coming out. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you here today. And another round of applause for Miss Jeannie. She worked so hard to put this together today.
Oh, Rosemary. And actually, all of us here, please come up so we can have a group pictures. We thank all of you, and I think we need to have a picture tonight.
Yeah,
because next year she'll be the congresswoman, and it'll be very hard to ask her to come.
Dạ, xin mời
Xin mời tất cả quý vị lên để chụp hình chung với Stephanie.